The house was not a home tonight. It was a battlefield of broken words and shattering hearts. In a tiny bedroom with faded pink wallpaper, a little girl named Alina curled into the corner of her bed, her small body shaking with every scream echoing through the hallway. Her fingers pressed to her ears, but the noise still found her, the crashing glass, the angry footsteps, the voice of a man who once promised to protect them but now brought only terror. Her mother's cry ripped through the silence. Please, stop. Not in front of my daughter. Alina's breath hitched. She knew she couldn't stay frozen this time. With hands trembling like autumn leaves in storm wind, she grabbed the old phone she wasn't supposed to use. It had cracks across the screen, but tonight it felt like her only lifeline. Mama always told her a number to remember, a number for help. A number she could call if danger ever came. But fear blurred her memory. The digits swam in her mind like they were drowning. She took a shaky guess. Tears fell on the screen as she typed faster than she ever had in her little life. He's beating my mama. Please help. Her thumb hovered for a moment, trembling with doubt. What if no one answered? What if the message never reached the right person? But another scream came, a sound so full of hurt that it pushed her courage forward. She tapped send. The message flew away like a desperate prayer. Alina squeezed the phone to her chest and crawled beneath the bed, holding her breath as footsteps thudded toward her room. Shadows flickered under the door. She closed her eyes tightly, whispering, "Someone will come, someone will come." Across the city, far away from children, love, or hope, light from a single phone illuminated the face of Victor Orlov, a man known to many as a monster. A mafia boss, with power and darkness trailing behind him like a cloak. His world was built on fear, others feared him, and he used that fear like a weapon. He sat in his private office, surrounded by polished wood, silent guards, and the smell of expensive whiskey. Paper deals of power lay on his desk. Nothing in his empire could surprise him anymore, or so he believed. Then his phone buzzed. He expected business. Numbers. Orders. Threats. Not this. The message popped up with a blinking urgency. He's beating my mama. Please help. Victor stared at it, and for a moment, the air around him changed. Something pulled at a place in his heart he thought had died long ago. A memory, a small boy hiding from a monster he once called father. A woman's cry, a promise he made to himself that he could never keep. His jaw clenched. His pulse quickened. This wasn't a mistake. It felt like destiny knocking. In the dark silence of his office, Victor whispered to himself. No child should ever beg a stranger to save their mother. He stood up, and the chair behind him rolled back as if frightened. Tonight, the wrong number had reached the right man. Victor Orlov stood frozen, the glow of the message carving shadows across his stern face. Around him, the room buzzed with low voices, his men sorting money, exchanging coded whispers, but their world dimmed behind a veil of silence. All he saw was the trembling plea of a child. A child he didn't know. But a pain he recognized far too well. His right-hand man, Leon, noticed the sudden shift. Boss, something wrong? He asked, stepping closer. Victor didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the phone, as if the message were a hand pulling him back through time, to a night filled with the same helpless cries. He remembered his mother's voice breaking as his father's rage consumed her. Victor's fists clenched, white and furious. He had promised himself he would never feel powerless again, and he kept that promise, but at a cost that hardened his soul. Boss, Leon repeated, concern creeping in now. Slowly, Victor turned the phone toward him. Leon's brows shot up. This must be a mistake. You don't even know the kid. Victor looked at him, not with rage, but with something deeper, something lost. A child asked me for help, he said. That's enough. Leon opened his mouth to object, but Victor raised a hand. No arguments. Gear up. There was no time to think, only to act. He typed back with rare gentleness. I'm on my way. Alina's reply came almost instantly. A tiny, desperate heart pouring into words. Please hurry. Victor's chest tightened. Once, he had prayed for someone to hurry, too. He grabbed his coat off the hanger, a heavy black trench that seemed to carry the weight of every choice he'd made. His gold watch glinted as he slipped it on, not as a symbol of wealth, but of time lost, years when a hero never showed up. Every step he took toward the door felt like breaking chains inside him. Where are we going? Leon asked, picking up his gun. Victor paused, his eyes cold as winter, voice like steel. To save a mother and her child. A ripple of shock traveled through the room. His men knew Victor as many things, ruthless, unstoppable, a storm with no mercy, but not compassionate. Yet none dared to question the fire blazing in his eyes. As they marched through the hallway, Victor's mind battled memories he'd buried. His mother lying battered on the kitchen floor. His father turning, searching for the boy who hid. Victor's own fingers dialing a number with trembling hope. No one ever came. That night made him what he became, a man feared by all. But tonight, fear would serve a different purpose. They burst into the cold night air. The wind whipped through Victor's hair, but he barely felt it. He stepped into his armored car, slammed the door, and the engine roared to life. This wasn't business. This wasn't revenge. This was redemption. As the convoy sped across the city, Victor whispered to himself, almost like a prayer he didn't know he still had. No one hurts a child, not while I breathe. The wrong number had awakened the last piece of humanity he thought he'd lost. And it was ready to fight. Alina's breath came in tiny, shaky gasps beneath the bed. Dust tickled her nose, but she didn't dare move. Every second felt like an hour as she listened to the chaos outside her room. Her stepfather's boots pounded the floor, loud, angry thunder in a small house. Her mother's cries were quieter now, as though fear had stolen her voice. Please come, she begged silently. Then her doorknob rattled. Metal scraped against metal as the man twisted it with drunken fury. Where are you, brat? He slurred, voice dripping with cruelty. Come out and watch what happens to a woman who doesn't listen. Alina covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaking silently down her cheeks. She squeezed her eyes shut and held the phone close like a friend who refused to leave her side. Downstairs, headlights cut through the night. Tires screeched against the pavement. Doors slammed, heavy, purposeful. Footsteps, too many and too swift to belong to the police. Her stepfather froze at the sudden silence outside. Even his rage paused. He turned toward the front door, confusion furrowing his brow. What the hell? Boom. The door exploded inward with a force that shook the walls. Shards of wood flew across the living room. Smoke curled through the air like a warning. In the doorway stood Victor Orlov. Tall, solid, dressed in black. Behind him, shadowy men spread out like wolves ready to tear apart a threat. Victor's eyes surveyed the scene, the broken mother on the floor, the man standing over her. The fear pulsing through the house. And then he saw the little feet tucked under the hallway carpet, Alina hiding. His jaw tightened. You've been busy, he said, voice cold enough to freeze fire. The stepfather stumbled back. Who are you? You can't just. A swift punch from Leon shut him up, teeth rattling as he collapsed onto the sofa. Two of Victor's men pinned his arms before he could even cry out. Alina peeked from under the bed, eyes wide with disbelief. She had expected a policeman, not a giant carved from knight and armor. Her mother lifted her head, pain swirling in her gaze. Please, don't hurt him, she whispered, voice cracked and trembling. But Victor didn't look at the man, he looked at her. At the purple bruises staining her skin. At the terror she tried so hard to swallow. No one else will ever hurt you again, he said softly. His boots thudded across the floor with a slow, controlled fury. He crouched beside her, offering a hand, huge, rough, but strangely gentle. It's okay now, he murmured. Your daughter called for help. I heard her. Alina crawled out from her hiding place, unable to stay away any longer. She ran straight into Victor's arms, clinging to his coat, sobbing into the fabric. He stiffened for a second, then wrapped his arms around her as though protecting something precious he never expected to hold. The monster of this house trembled now, with fear. Victor didn't need weapons to be terrifying. He only needed his anger, the kind that comes from love. Tonight, a child's cry had turned a feared gangster into a guardian. And the man who thought he owned this family realized he was no longer in control. The living room, once filled with cruelty and violence, now held a different kind of fear, the fear of justice that had finally arrived. Victor lowered himself to the floor, keeping one protective arm around Alina. She clung tightly to him, her tiny fingers gripping his coat like she was afraid he might disappear if she let go. Her heartbeat thudded against his chest, a frantic rhythm that softened even the hardest edges inside him. Her mother tried to sit up, wincing from the pain spreading across her ribs. A gentle hand appeared in front of her, Victor's. She hesitated, then placed her trembling palm into his. Her voice cracked as she whispered, Who are you? It wasn't a question of fear. It was a question of disbelief. Victor looked at her, not as a leader, not as a monster, not as the name whispered in dark alleyways, but simply as a man who understood her suffering too well. Someone who once hoped a stranger would come, he replied quietly. Those words hit her harder than any blow she had received tonight. Tears streamed from her eyes, not from pain, but from a relief so raw she didn't know how to hold it. Behind them, the stepfather squirmed under the grip of two of Victor's men. He spat curses, trying to spit out his fear too. You don't get to touch my family. He barked, struggling like a cornered rat. Victor didn't even turn his head. They stopped being your family the moment you raised your hand against them. His voice held no shouting, only truth. And truth was far more terrifying coming from him. Alina pressed her face into his shoulder. Please don't go, she whimpered, afraid he would walk back into the night and leave them behind like everyone else. He placed a large hand gently on the back of her head. I'm not leaving, he promised. A few feet away, Leon crouched beside the mother, checking the bruises with unusual tenderness for a man of his profession. Do you want a doctor here or at the hospital? He asked. Her mother blinked, confused. She didn't know how to answer, she had never been given choices during fear. Why are you helping us? She finally whispered. This time, Victor did turn to look at the man who had tormented them. His stare was sharp enough to pierce through bone. Because people like him thrive when good people look away, Victor said. I looked away once. Never again. Alina lifted her head slightly. Her eyes, still shiny with tears, searched his face. She didn't see a crime lord. She didn't see danger. She saw someone who came when she called. Someone who cared. She reached up with her free hand and touched his cheek. You're a good man, she said softly. Victor's breath caught in a place he had long buried beneath shadows and sins. A good man. No one had said those words to him in years. He wasn't sure he deserved them, but hearing them from this brave little soul made him want to be worthy. He held her closer, as if sealing a silent vow. You're safe now, he said firmly. As long as I'm breathing, no one will hurt you again. For the first time in a long time. He meant every single word. Blue and red lights flickered against the house's broken doorway, painting the night with sirens and justice. Police officers rushed inside, weapons drawn, having followed the anonymous emergency alert Victor's men sent the moment they arrived. Alina's stepfather was dragged to his feet, cuffs clamping tightly around the wrists that had only ever known violence. He screamed empty threats, his voice cracking as the officers shoved him toward the patrol car waiting outside. You'll regret this. All of you. The car door slammed shut, swallowing his anger into silence. Alina watched from Victor's arms, her safe place now, as the monster who had terrorized her world finally disappeared into the darkness. Her mother stood nearby, wrapped in Leon's jacket, holding her bruised ribs and trembling, but she was standing. That alone felt like a victory. The paramedics examined her, nodding with gentle reassurance. She'll be okay, one whispered. She's stronger than she looks. But Victor already knew that. He could see strength in her eyes, a quiet fight that had endured for far too long. Strength like his mother once had. As the final police car rolled away, silence settled again. But this silence was different, not the silence of fear, the silence of healing. Victor carefully set Alina on her feet. For a moment, she didn't let go. Her tiny fingers curled tighter around his coat, unwilling to lose the man who had become her sudden miracle. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. You're safe now, Aaliyah, he murmured, using a softer version of her name that made her smile through tears. Her mother stepped closer, eyes shining with gratitude that words could never fully hold. How do I thank someone who saved our lives? She asked hoarsely. Victor shook his head. You don't thank me. Just protect her. Love her. He looked at Alina. She deserves gentle days. For a second, it seemed as though he might truly disappear into the night, like a guardian angel made of shadows. It was easier for him to leave than to feel his heart reopening after all these years. He took one step back. Then a tiny voice stopped him. Thank you, Uncle. Time paused. The world paused. The word uncle struck deeper than any bullet ever could. Something pure, something he believed he no longer had any right to, had just been given to him by a child who saw his heart clearer than any adult ever did. Victor's breath trembled. He turned, and for the first time in so many years, a gentle, genuine smile lifted the corners of his mouth. He crouched to Alina's height. I will always come if you call, he promised. Even if the number is wrong. Her laughter, soft and hopeful, wrapped around him like a warm blanket. As Victor walked back toward his car, the night didn't feel as dark anymore. His men followed silently, sensing the shift in their leader. Something had healed tonight, something forgotten had been found. He glanced once more at the house, no longer a place of fear, but of survival and new beginnings. Sometimes, a wrong number is a message from destiny. A reminder that even the hardest hearts can still choose to do good. And when they do, lives change forever.